Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Fry. I rise today in support of H.R. 2240, the Improving Law Enforcement Safety and Wellness Through Data Act, a bill that I introduced in response to the deeply troubling rise in targeted violence against our nation's law enforcement. Every day, officers across this great nation put their lives on the line to keep our communities safe. And far too often, they in fact become the targets of violence simply for wearing the badge. This year alone, again, we're only in May, there have been 109 officers shot in the line of duty, 12 of whom tragically lost their lives. Even more alarming, Mr. Speaker, there have been 21 ambush-style attacks on law enforcement officers this year, resulting in 25 officers shot, 5 of whom were killed. These numbers do not account, though, even for the many instances where officers were fired upon, but fortunately not struck. Ambush-style attacks are some of the most dangerous. They are calculated and often deadly, leading to higher rates of both injuries and fatalities. That's why I introduced this legislation to ensure that we are doing all we can at the federal level to understand, to prevent, and respond to these targeted attacks. The Improving Law Enforcement Officer Safety and Wellness Through Data Act enhances our ability to collect and, more importantly, to analyze data on violent acts against officers. This will empower agencies around the country with the information that they need to strengthen their response and better protect their personnel. Importantly, H.R. 2240 also calls for a comprehensive assessment of availability and use of mental health resources within law enforcement, because protecting those who protect us must include supporting their mental well-being. We need to make sure that we get away from any shame that can sometimes happen when a law enforcement officer needs to reach out for some kind of mental health counseling. If you think about it, these men and women see oftentimes the worst of folks. They see folks who are in their worst state. They see the tragedies that hopefully most of us will go through life and never have to see. And they do it every day, day in and day out, because it's their job that they have chosen to do to keep us safe. You know, these officers answer the call day or night. They don't have a choice as to what they respond to. They run toward danger to safeguard our neighborhoods, and far too often they pay a heavy price. We owe them more than our gratitude. We owe them action. And I'll say this, there were a couple comments that about past events, some of which happened before I came here as a new member. But I do remember very well the spring of 2020, when we saw many of our cities burned, looted, destroyed, some of them that have not yet even recovered, and where instead of law enforcement being supported by some in those local governments, they were vilified when they were out doing what they could to try to help, when they were told to stand down and allow mobs to go in and destroy property. I saw that firsthand, Mr. Speaker, in Raleigh. I mean, I literally watched folks roaming around, destroying windows, burning vehicles, shooting, all this kind of mayhem. And then I saw some, no names, but some on the other side that would kind of give cover and say, well, it was understandable. It was a peaceful protest. It's not a peaceful protest if you're destroying buildings. It's not a peaceful protest if you're attacking someone. It's not a peaceful protest if you're burning buildings, burning cars, engaging in violent contact. And then we saw from that some of this anti-police that came about, the defund the police. I am glad to see that I don't hear that very much anymore. I hope that foolish idea never gets raised again in this great chamber. Because if it were not for the men and women in law enforcement, it would be a society of disorder and random violence. We owe these men and women all we can do for them. We owe them to make sure that their jobs are safe. I think about a situation, Mr. Speaker, that happened in Wake County, North Carolina in 2022, where a sheriff's deputy was ambushed and killed by an illegal immigrant. All right? I'm not trying to open up the debate on illegal immigration. Fortunately, this body has taken action, along with our president, to secure the border, to stop gang members from coming into this country. But someone who was in this country who shouldn't have even been here attacked, ambushed a Wake County deputy and killed him. These stories happen around the country. So this is one more piece, and finally bringing some sanity, bringing some protection, providing protection for the American people to make sure that they're not having to worry about gang members being allowed into the country, that we're not allowing illegal immigration to run amok, that we're not, downing the police and somehow lifting up the criminals. The American people were tired of that. They were tired of it, and guess what? They're getting results. This is one more piece to try to do this, to help these men and women in law enforcement, and I appreciate the body's support. I encourage all the members to vote for it. With that, I yield back to the gentleman from South Carolina.